with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jumbo, aloha, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the crowded Mattress Studios here in the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville. We are so honored and so very happy that you are joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. Our guest today is Malia Maunakea. She's here to celebrate her debut middle grade novel, Lay and the Fire Goddess. Before we invite Malia into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media, Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at JedleyMagic. And of course, we would love it if you could visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. So much going on at readingwithyourkids.com. If you are a parent, an educator, you absolutely want to click the Parents Click Here button to read our blog and to visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame. If you are an author, please be sure to click the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest here in the podcast. Also find out about our promotional services and our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. That's the program that's helped so many authors tell the world about their fantastic children's book. You can also find out how you can be a guest here on the podcast as well. And there's a contact button at the top of the page. You can use that to let us know what you love about the podcast, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Hawaii. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut middle grade novel. It's called Lay and the Fire Goddess. Please welcome to the show, Malia Maunakea. Hey, Malia, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Now, Malia was kind enough to help me learn how to pronounce her name and pronounce the title of her book. But I have a feeling I mispronounced your home state.
Hawaii,
right?
Yes, you can make it with the V or the W. It can be Hawaii or Hawaii, either way, but make sure you have the okina between the I's.
Well, Hawaii is one of those places that I haven't been to here in the States. I've been to most states, but I haven't gotten to Alaska or Hawaii. And it's really, I think, a mystery to a lot of people. Before we get into the book that I know is set in Hawaii, can you just tell us a little bit about that wonderful island or group of islands and your connection to it?
Sure. So that group of islands is fascinating to me. So I grew up on Hawaii Island, or the Big Island, which is not the one with Waikiki and Honolulu. It's a little bit more country. It has Hilo and Kona. I actually was born in Volcano, lived there until elementary school when we moved to Hilo. And then we moved to Honolulu on Oahu in 7th grade. Hawaii is, I would say, different than the other states because depending on who you speak with, it is not technically, legally a state. I recently went back to college in getting a degree in Hawaiian studies, and my eyes have been open to a lot of interesting things that happened around the late 1800s, early 1900s. So that's for another time in another podcast. But
Okay.
it's a lot of fun history and hard history and important history.
Yeah.
All packaged in one of the tiniest little places in the center of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, I know my beautiful wife family is originally from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, and that also has a much more complicated history and existence today than most people realize. So
Yeah.
I would love to have you back on sometime to talk about that, because I think all of these things are fascinating and should be of interest to all of us, and not just the people who live in those places.
Agreed.
Yeah. So tell us all about Lei and the Fire Goddess.
So Lei and the Fire Goddess basically was conceived out of my fascination with all the stories I grew up with, growing up in the islands, along with my love of all things mythology. I was born pre-Percy Jackson era, but my kids absolutely love all things Rick Riordan, and I essentially got to thinking about why are there no very well-known stories at our library here in Colorado about Hawaiian myths and legends and everyday average kids going on epic adventures in Hawaii and that sort of thing. And somebody once said, if you don't see the book you want to read in the library, write it. Mm-hmm. So I tried. So yeah, this is my first attempt at a middle grade novel that incorporates all the stories I grew up with in a new way, trying to make it exciting for folks that may not be familiar with all those legends.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What's one of the legends that you've incorporated into the story?
The one that I actually started with is a legend of Pele and her sister, Poliahu, who is the snow goddess on Maunakea. Poliahu and her snow maidens enjoyed holua, these sled races down Mauna Kea. And one day, Pele really wanted to join them, and Poliahu let her, but Pele has quite the temper, and when she wasn't winning, she sent a whole bunch of lava down the slope after her sister. And luckily, Poliahu and the snow maidens were able to make it back up the Mauna and blanket it with snow, and Pele was defeated. So that really captured my imagination, because in fourth grade, our teacher had us act out that legend, and I give him acknowledgments in the back of the book, because that kind of started this whole thing.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Isn't it wonderful that we can remember back? I remember my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Beatty, would put on these really elaborate performances that just starred her fifth grade class. And we did St. George and the Dragon. And it's, for me, it was almost 100 years ago. And I still remember being on the stage and being part of that and creating the dragon, and here you are being inspired by something that happened to you in fourth grade. So if there are any fourth grade, fifth grade teachers out there, you have no idea what you could be instilling in your students.
Absolutely. I make a point of telling teachers when I'm speaking in classes, I try to convince the students that what they're learning now really can impact them for the rest of their lives. Like, they are carrying this mana'o, this information with them, and they just don't know what will be important and what they'll end up. I never thought a fourth grade play would come into a career, but here we are.
Yeah.
And all the songs that we learned, we had a kumuli that would come in every Wednesday. Probably wasn't even every Wednesday. It was maybe once a month, because she was very part-time, and she would come in with her big lauhala hat and her mu'umu'u and her ukulele, and she would sing Hawaiian songs to us, and we would all sing along. So I was super excited that I was able to put some of those songs in the book as well. And she's in acknowledgments too. I'm not even sure if she's still with us, but she had a very big impact on this.
Tell me a little bit about the lead character, Lei. Tell me what's she like?
So Lei is, she's part Hawaiian, part everything. And she lives in Colorado for the most part with her mom and dad. She lived in Hawaii up until elementary school, but then her mom got transferred. So she's been raised primarily on the mainland and she's trying to figure herself out because kids in her school on the continent definitely are not familiar with the legends and myths and history of Hawaii, but she goes back to visit her tutu every summer for 3 weeks and is immersed into that culture and that understanding again, that lifestyle. So she's trying to walk the line between these two different cultures and isn't really sure what to believe and is getting pulled in both directions, and finally decides this is the summer. She's 12 years old. She's putting her foot down. No more of these stories from Tutu. We're going to have a normal, touristy, fun summer that she can share with all her friends back home. Of course, that's not what happens, but that's her goal, because she wants a fun summer for herself.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that Lei wants a fun, touristy, quote-unquote, normal experience. Yeah. And I know when I travel, that is the last thing that I want. You know, when I'm traveling, it's like if by some weird quirk of circumstance, I end up on a resort, the first thing I do is get off the resort and go and, run back when I could run, run in the neighborhoods or go to the supermarket and be with the people who live wherever it is I am. I just find that so much more fascinating than just being with the same people I'm normally with here in Boston, but just in a different place.
See, and when I grew up in Hilo, I had heard of these magical resorts over on the other side of the island where you could swim with dolphins and you could snorkel with manta rays, and they would bring you fruity drinks with a paper umbrella in them. And that just seemed completely, the complete opposite of what my Hawaii was. So it always intrigued me and kind of tantalized me, but I never really experienced it. And I still haven't. I'm actually going snorkeling with manta rays this month for the first time ever. So.
Awesome. I hope you have a great time. Hey, can you tell, I've spent a little bit of time in the rainforests of Central America and also down in Puerto Rico. It's a really magical place. And like I said, I've only visited. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like growing up in the rainforest and growing up near or on a volcano?
Yeah. So one of my earliest memories was walking into our living room in the middle of the night. It probably wasn't the middle of the night. It was probably like 10 o'clock or something, because my mom was still sitting on the couch, but our living room was glowing red and the volcano was erupting somewhere. And I just remember having that like dim red glow, and that haunted me my whole life. And I was terrified of fire completely. Like, my husband is the one that taught me how to use a lighter because I wouldn't touch the stuff until I was a grown up and I needed to for camping. So I always had I was fine going to Volcano National Park as long as we stayed away from the lava. But of course, when my grandparents from New York would come visit every other year, they'd want to go see the lava. So we would go down and Dad would have us stand next to the lava flow, and it doesn't move very fast at all. And back in those days, you were able to go right up next to the flow as it was crossing the roads, and pose for pictures, which, yeah, that is terrifying for a child. But the rainforests were amazing, and you could climb all of the trees and eat all of the fruit. It's different than the rainforests in other parts of the world because there aren't the creatures that live in, for example, in Costa Rica. I know there were animals that you'd have to be wary of a little bit more. I don't know if they were snakes or monkeys or alligators or all those types of creatures that Hawaii doesn't have. Hawaii does have wild pigs that can do bodily harm for sure if you're a hunter or if you're going after them, but I never had any interaction. So for me, the rainforest was my playground, and I loved growing up there.
Yeah. The rainforest of Costa Rica, it does definitely have caimans, and we experienced those, and lots of monkeys, and very big and strong monkeys. I think I've told this story on the podcast before. When we were going through the rainforest, it was really wonderful. We had a wonderful guide with us, but we were on a path. And I was kind of like wanting to get off the path and just kind of explore it. And I think the guide sensed that. And so he said to me at one point, he said, "Sir," and he gave me a little stick, and he said, "Just go over there and just lift up that leaf right over there." And I said, "This one?" He goes, yeah. And I lifted it up, and there was this creature. It looked like a spring. It was bright yellow, and it was underneath the leaf. And he said, "Yeah, that's a viper. They're all over the place here." And I gently put the leaf down and said, "I'm going to stay with you." We have cows for a reason. Yeah, that wasn't how it was in the volcano I grew up in. I've heard, I saw a news article just recently that they caught a skunk in Hilo or somewhere in Hawaii. A skunk. What? So yeah, folks bring things in, or things come in. When I was growing up, there were the Jackson chameleons, and then the Toki frogs that are ridiculously loud and taking over now. But there's always stuff coming in, but we try to keep it out. Yeah. What would you say to people who, like me, have not had a chance to go and visit Hawaii as of yet?
I would say it's definitely worth the trip, but it's also very important to be educated prior to going in ways to visit responsibly. It's fun. The Hawaii Visitors Bureau, Hawaii Tourism Bureau, I can't remember exactly what they're called, but now if you go on their website, they have a whole page dedicated to volunteerism opportunities. So if you go, you're able to actually give back and not just take on your trip, which I think is incredibly valuable, because you would leave more enriched, I believe, than when you come and just have a typical tourist vacation. I think it's valuable to explore some of the historic sites that might not be as flashy or attractive, but contain a lot of helpful cultural information, and take some time to be still and listen to some of the local folks and hear what they have to say.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. Tell me, Lay and the Fire Goddess. Is this the first in a series of middle grade novels?
I have just been given the okay to announce that we have the sequel that will be coming out next year. So I'm able to say that much.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. And we didn't even set that up.
No, I know. So good job asking. Yes, I'm very excited. Leigh is going to be back for more chaotic adventure next year.
That's wonderful. Hey, one of the things that I think we love to ask authors is what kind of conversations do you think families can have as they're reading your novel together or co-reading and then coming together to talk about the book on the way to dance class or ballet or soccer or whatever?
Great question. I think that this book works on a lot of levels, whether or not you live in Hawaii and you can discuss some of the nuances of the cultural pieces that you might be able to dive into a little bit deeper because you're already familiar with the service level stories. For example, the Pele's origin story, like where did she come from? She came from Kahiki is what some folks say. How did she get to the islands? If the islands were already there, who formed them? Did Maui pull them up from the ocean? All this is in the story, like the different origin myths of these gods and goddesses and demigods. If you're not that steeped in the culture, you can have other conversations like, okay, if you're going through this this family dilemma of trying to pull away and assert your own independence and beliefs, what are some healthy ways to do that and find your own sense of self, even if we have these family codes and family histories that are important to the rest of us? How do we listen to what our friends are doing and our friends are saying, but also staying true to ourselves and our family?
I like that. And I especially like that, the idea of talking about pulling away by still being connected with your family, but also pulling away and becoming an independent person. I think that's such a challenge for young people. I also think it's a real challenge for grown-ups and parents to be able to sit back and say, okay, that's kind of what your job is right now. And one of the things that I noticed when my kids were at that age, a lot of parents would come up to me, when your kids turn 13, 14, they're going to be absolute nightmares and you're going to hate them. You're not going to want to spend time with them. Just going to be horrible. And I saw that, especially with a lot of my daughter's friends. And I think part of that comes from the fact that parents aren't able to sit back and go, okay, you have to pull away from us. And that's okay. And I think that the real nasty negative behavior comes when the parents are like, nope, you're not going anywhere. I think if you can kind of let up on those reins and have confidence that you raised your kids in a way that they're going to be careful but also respectful and stay connected with you, that's going to be a lot easier transition for both of you.
Yep. I've got a 13 and a 15-year-old right now. So from the start of writing this, I've been in the thick of it. Understand those push and pull dynamics and the need to explore safely.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things we need to explore is your website.
Oh, yes, please. Go check it out. It's maliamaunakea.com. And I know that is a mouthful. Yeah, I can spell it out. Malia. I think it'll be on this page, on the podcast.
It'll be on the show notes. Absolutely. Well, we've had a great time speaking to the author of the debut middle grade novel, Lay and the Fire Goddess. Our guest has been the author Malia Maunakea. Hey, Malia, thanks so much for being with us.
Mahalo.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Sally Fatu. She'll be joining us from the beautiful island of New Zealand. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Malia Maunakea. Please be sure to check out Lay and the Fire Goddess. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Jordan Staley, Lori Grady, Will Cheever, Cassandra Masonet, Stephanie Davila. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.